Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte and United States President Donald Trump slammed the militarization of the disputed South China Sea. Duterte and Trump, in a joint statement, stressed the importance of peacefully resolving disputes in the South China Sea in accordance with international law as reflected in the Law of the Sea Convention. The two leaders say there is a need to refrain from actions that would escalate tensions, including militarization. This joint statement is expected to draw flack from China, which detests so-called U.S. interference in the South China Sea dispute. During the ASEAN summit, the 10-member regional bloc and China agreed to start talks on a code of conduct in the disputed waters. In a draft statement for the ASEAN-China summit, both parties vowed not to take the commerce situation in the South China Sea for granted. A fire at the Caloocan City Police Station Tuesday damages the first floor of the two-story building where homicide case folders are located. It's still unclear how many case folders are burned, but the police station was known for the killings of teenagers Kian de los Santos and Carl Arnaiz. De los Santos was slain by cops during a drug raid, while Arnaiz was killed by police who were supposedly responding to a distress call by a taxi driver. Police alleged both had shot it out with the arresting officers. Autopsy results released by the public attorney's office show both were handcuffed, dragged, and shot. Policemen from Caloocan City are the suspects in both cases. Follow Rappler.com for continuing updates. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says he raised the issue of human rights and extrajudicial killings during his brief conversation with Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte Tuesday.
I actually had an opportunity to have a conversation with President Duterte just before our meeting earlier this morning, the larger meeting earlier this morning, in which I emphasized, of course, the people-to-people ties between Canada and the Philippines and the great connections there. But I also mentioned human rights, the rule of law, and specifically extrajudicial killings as being an issue that Canada is concerned with.
There was pressure on Trudeau to comment on the issue as he branded himself worldwide as a human rights champion. Trudeau says it is what is expected of his country. He says Duterte was receptive to his comments and their conversation was very cordial and a positive exchange. Trudeau also says the Philippines and Canada are working together to bring to justice the Abu Sayyaf bandits who killed Canadian hostages last year. The Abu Sayyaf beheaded Canadians John Ristel and Robert Hall in April and June 2016.
We have been advised by the Philippines that most of the people engaged in the kidnapping of the two Canadians have been killed in military operations. But we continue to work with the Philippines to ensure that everyone associated with that is brought to justice.
Trudeau says he and Duterte discussed how they can collaborate on reducing hostage-taking as a fundraising mechanism for terrorists. Still on Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister says it is now possible for his country to bring back 103 container vans of trash illegally shipped to the Philippines.
In Canada, even though it originally came from Canada, we had legal barriers and restrictions that prevented us from being able to take it back. Those regulations and those impediments have now been addressed, so it is now theoretically possible to get it back.
But Trudeau did not make a full commitment to remove the garbage out of the country yet, saying the trash came from a private business, not the Canadian government. Around 1,300 tons of waste materials were illegally shipped by Ontario-based company Chronic Incorporated to the Philippines in 2013. Trudeau says the Canadian and Philippine governments need to iron out certain details, including who should pay for the shipment of the illegal trash back to his country. Military troops sweeping the battle area in Marawi City recover a firearms cache in Lake Lanao. Task Group Ranao Deputy Chief Romeo Bronner says 30 firearms were recovered. Bronner says there may be more firearms still under the lake. Bronner says, quote, "It is believed that the terrorists threw their weapons into the lake during the last hours of the firefight when they smelled defeat and when they were about to make their final escape." He adds some terrorists may have escaped in view of the arrest of Indonesian fighter Muhammadin Ilham Shaputra outside the battle area. Martial law remains enforced in the entire Mindanao until December 31. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque says Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte didn't talk about the return of the Balangiga bells during his bilateral meeting with United States President Donald Trump. This despite Duterte's previous strong remarks demanding the return of the historic bells. The Balangiga bells are also not mentioned in the two leaders' joint statement. Duterte is known to harbor strong feelings about the taking of the Balangiga bells by American soldiers in the early 20th century as spoils of war. During his State of the Nation address last July, Duterte asked the U.S. to return the bells. In response, the U.S. vowed to resolve the Balangiga bells issue but without indicating a specific time frame. In September, Duterte said he would rather be friendly with the U.S. since they were able to redeem themselves.